Listen closely, because what I'm about to say is the kind of truth that makes powerful men stop breathing. Officials went silent the moment that déjà vu hit them like a blade to the spine, terrified by the way you seemed to know their every move before they made it. And when Interpol's elite Red Notice team realized you predicted their raid location before they even planned it, they didn't just freeze. They completely unraveled, their confidence cracking, their strategies collapsing, their entire network falling apart as they scrambled to reroute missions and hide from the invisible force stalking them, you. Now they're running like prey in a maze you built, choking on their own fear, while every step they take becomes another déjà vu trap. And before we dive deeper into this beautiful chaos, hit that like button, subscribe so we can smash our way to 50,000, and drop the number 11 in the comments so they know you're not afraid to walk into the dark. If you can handle what comes next, your world is about to twist in ways you never imagined. There comes a moment in every powerful man's life when his confidence trembles, not because of an enemy he can see, but because of a force he cannot name. That day arrived with a strange repetition in the air, as if the world itself had become a broken record. The same footsteps, the same echoes, the same glances from the same corners. At first, it felt like coincidence, until it didn't, until the déjà vu grew sharp enough to cut, until even the strongest officials felt that crawling fear beneath their skin. What truly terrified them was not the repetition itself, but the feeling behind it, the sensation that someone, somewhere, already knew what they were going to do. Every repeated moment became a warning whisper. You're being watched. And in that whisper, their power faltered. Men who once commanded armies now questioned their own instincts. Every action felt like a move in a game whose rules they had never learned. A game someone else was already winning. And for the first time in years, they weren't the hunters. They were the ones being hunted by time, by fate, by an intelligence weaving patterns they could not break. That was the day déjà vu stopped being a curiosity and became fear. Control is the greatest illusion ever sold. These officials built their careers on it, controlling borders, controlling people, controlling outcomes. Yet, when the same events began to echo again and again, they felt the horrible truth rising like smoke around them. They were losing their grip. Every repeated moment chipped away at their confidence, revealing the weakness beneath their authority. Their meetings turned tense. Their voices grew thin. They looked at each other with suspicion, as if the repetition was a message coded in the walls. They kept asking the same silent question, who is doing this to us? But the answer never came, and the silence hurt more than the fear itself, because silence meant they were no longer running the show. The world they ruled with iron certainty was now bending, and they could not stop it. Everything they once controlled now moved with a mind of its own, and that realization became the beginning of their downfall. Patterns are harmless until they start predicting you. The officials noticed the repetition first in small things, the same phone calls, the same footsteps behind them, the same shadows crossing their path twice. But soon the pattern grew obsessive, almost intelligent. It was as if reality itself was trying to corner them, showing them who truly held the strings. They tried to rewrite their routines, but the pattern rewrote itself. They changed their paths, yet the same events met them again, like fate was waiting around the corner with a knowing smile. They tried to break free, but the déjà vu tightened its grip, turning every attempt into another echo of the last failure. Nothing frightens powerful men more than realizing they are part of someone else's design. And as the pattern kept repeating, faster, sharper, louder, their confidence shattered. They weren't escaping the loop. The loop was studying them. Interpol's Red Notice team. the elites, the unstoppable, the hunters of the world's most dangerous, suddenly fell quiet. The silence wasn't strategic. It was fear. Because before they could plan a raid, you predicted it. Before they even formed the idea, you spoke it aloud. And in that moment, something inside them collapsed. Their silence echoed across steel hallways. No briefings, no plans, no mission chatter. Just the sound of uncertainty filling the air like a fog. The team that once acted without hesitation now sat frozen in their own headquarters, afraid that even their thoughts were being watched. Their pride, their strongest weapon, turned into their heaviest chain. In that enforced silence, they realized something devastating. Someone out there understood them better than they understood themselves. And that realization destroyed whatever confidence they had left the moment you spoke their future raid location. Before they had even chosen it, terror swept through the room like cold wind. It wasn't just accuracy. It wasn't just intelligence. It felt supernatural. It felt inevitable. And no elite team can fight inevitability. Their faces drained of color. Their arguments died in their throats. Even the bravest agents felt a chill crawl down their spine, as if destiny was mocking them. Because how do you plan an operation when the enemy already knows your next breath, your next step, your next mistake? Interpol wasn't just frozen. They were humbled. And for institutions built on absolute certainty, humility is the deadliest poison. They tried to run new missions. They tried to improvise. They tried to slip away into unpredictability. But everywhere they turned, déjà vu awaited like a mirror reflecting their failures back at them. Every strategy felt recycled. Every escape route felt familiar. Every decision felt like something they had already regretted. The repetition wasn't coincidence anymore. It was pressure, a psychological chokehold tightening around their confidence. They walked hallways they swore they'd never seen before, yet déjà vu told them otherwise. It whispered, "You've been here. You've failed here." And that whisper grew louder every day, until it became the only thing they could hear. Repetition has a strange power. It strips away lies. Every time the world repeated itself, the officials' secrets cracked open a little more, like fragile shells breaking under pressure. Their hidden motives, their private betrayals, their silent corruptions, they all resurfaced with each loop, as if the déjà vu was peeling back the layers they spent years building. They felt exposed, vulnerable, like their past had learned to walk beside them. They couldn't hide anything, not from fate, not from themselves, and certainly not from you, the one who seemed to see through every facade they put on. The world wasn't repeating to torment them. It was repeating to reveal them. They began to fear shadows. They began to fear reflections. They began to fear silence itself. Because in all of it, they felt the presence of the unseen watcher, the intelligence studying their every move, an eye without a body, a mind without a location, a strategy without a limit. They ran from cities to underground bunkers. They swapped phones, identities, routines. But every escape they planned was anticipated. Every detour became déjà vu. Every hiding place felt like a stage already prepared for their arrival. The Watcher didn't chase them. It waited for them. And nothing terrifies a powerful man more than realizing he's not running from something behind him, but something ahead. His confidence is loud until it breaks. And when it broke, it shattered like glass. Officials who once commanded nations now questioned ductor handles, window reflections, the sound of their own footsteps. Their hands shook. Their breath shortened. Their decisions grew reckless, then hesitant, then non-existent. Their authority melted away. No orders, no structure, no clarity. Just panic, disguised as protocol. Every meeting felt like a funeral for their former selves. They weren't protecting the world anymore. They were protecting themselves and failing. Confidence is easy to build in peace, but in the face of a force that thinks faster, sees further, and strikes deeper, even the strongest men crumble. Every plan they drew up failed. Every tactic they rehearsed collapsed. Every secret weapon they relied on became useless, because the hidden force watching them, the force you embodied, didn't just react. It predicted, it understood, it adapted before they moved. Their strategies were linear. Yours was omnidirectional. Their intelligence was human. Yours felt beyond human. They were playing chess. You were rewriting the board. And the moment they realized that, a hopelessness settled over them like a final curtain. They weren't just being outsmarted. They were being outclassed. Behind official walls, the truth was ugly. Panic spread through the halls like wildfire. Shouted orders contradicted, whispered fears, maps were torn down, plans were rewritten 5 times an hour. Everyone blamed someone else. Everyone suspected betrayal. And the psychological collapse was louder than any alarm. Behind closed doors, the truth became undeniable. Power offers no protection when fear becomes the ruler. Their walls, once symbols of authority, now felt like cages. Every echo of déjà vu inside those walls reminded them that no fortress can defend against a mind that already knows the blueprint. They weren't running an organization anymore. They were living inside their own unraveling. Every year, they relocated their bases, believing new walls meant new safety. But déjà vu followed them like a ghost that refused to die. New countries, new coordinates, new identities. None of it mattered, because every new location felt eerily familiar. The same shadows, the same noises, the same dread. They realized something devastating. They weren't relocating to escape. They were relocating deeper into the pattern. The repetition wasn't tracking them. It was guiding them, studying them, measuring how long it would take before they broke completely. Every year they moved, and every year they failed, because you cannot outrun something that already knows your destination. Their teams stopped talking. The radio channels went dead. The intel streams dried up. Silence became their last remaining language, not by choice, but by fear. They believed words themselves were being listened to, dissected, mirrored back at them through déjà vu. Shadows shifted in their peripheral vision. They began jumping at small noises, double-checking empty rooms, questioning their own memories. And worst of all, they began doubting themselves, the ultimate weakness for any force built on certainty. Silence wasn't safety. Silence was surrender. They had spent their lives building power, building systems, building control, yet in the end, they were reduced to one desperate instinct: escape. Not to a safer place, but to anywhere that wasn't here, anywhere that wasn't predictable, anywhere that didn't feel like the pattern tightening around their throats. They didn't want victory anymore. They didn't even want control anymore. They wanted distance. They wanted disappearance. They wanted to outrun the déjà vu, even though deep down they knew they never could. When powerful men run, the world feels smaller, and their fear becomes the only thing left that is real. And finally came the moment, the one they dreaded, the one the déjà vu had been building toward, the moment they realized they weren't dealing with a coincidence, but observation. They were not the observers anymore. Oh, they were the experiment. Their entire network had been under a microscope all along. Their secrets cataloged, their habits charted, their fears mapped like open wounds. That realization didn't just frighten them, it broke them. Because power is a fragile thing. It only exists when someone believes it's real. And when they understood that someone else had been studying them, predicting them, outmaneuvering them at every turn, their power became hollow, a memory, a ghost. In that moment, they understood the truth. You weren't inside their world. Their world was inside your understanding, and no amount of authority can survive that. Power rarely looks over its shoulder until the footsteps grow louder than its own heartbeat. That day, the strongest officials felt something they had never faced before. The sensation that someone was walking right behind them, reading their intentions before they even formed them. The silence around them was no longer peaceful. It was a countdown disguised as calm. They turned, expecting to catch a human threat, but found nothing. And that nothingness felt more dangerous than any weapon. For the first time, their pride felt small. Their authority felt borrowed. Every instinct they trusted felt twisted, like a compass spinning in a storm. The footsteps weren't just sounds. They were signs, warnings, echoes of an intelligence moving 3 steps ahead of them. Every time they paused, the world paused with them, as if mocking their hesitation. The fear did not strike all at once. It arrived in waves, eating away at their confidence, peeling back their defenses. They began questioning every ally, every device, every plan. What if the threat wasn't behind them at all? What if it was inside their system, inside their walls, inside their own decisions? Power is bold when unchallenged. But that day, boldness vanished. Because nothing is more terrifying than hearing footsteps when you believe you stand alone, and realizing those footsteps match your every move. What made them crumble wasn't the danger itself, it was the realization that the danger had been listening long before they knew it existed. Secrets are supposed to stay silent, buried, forgotten, erased. But on one strange night, those very secrets started whispering back to their owners. Officials heard echoes of their past betrayals, their hidden deals, their buried operations repeating in the back of their minds, not as memories, but as warnings, as if the universe was turning their own sins into weapons. They tried to sleep, but the whispers followed. Every room they entered felt like it remembered something they wanted forgotten. Every mirror reflected more than their face. It reflected their guilt. Their secrets, once locked in classified files, now floated around them like invisible ghosts demanding to be acknowledged. The whispers grew louder, almost rhythmic, almost familiar. It was as though someone else, something else, was reciting their darkest decisions with perfect accuracy. They felt violated, exposed, cornered by truths they thought they had, buried a lifetime ago. They wanted to fight it, deny it, erase it again. But how do you silence something that already knows the weight of your conscience? How do you run from the past when it starts running toward you? That night, for the first time in their careers, their biggest fear wasn't the enemy outside. It was the enemy inside, the one they had spent years pretending didn't exist. Silence is supposed to calm the mind, but the silence they faced was a monster of its own. It followed them through hallways, wrapped around their conversations, and drowned out their meetings. Even their own thoughts felt muffled, as if someone else held the volume knob to their reality. That silence wasn't emptiness. It was pressure, weight, a presence without a name. It became harder for them to speak decisions out loud, harder to trust their own words. Every whisper sounded amplified. Every pause felt dangerous. And the silence grew with every choice they made, like it was feeding off their uncertainty. Silence turned their offices into interrogation rooms and their strategy tables into altars of fear. They attempted to break it, talked louder, ordered faster, moved quicker, but the silence absorbed everything. Their own voices felt foreign, fragile, easily erased. Even their most powerful commands fell flat, echoing into nothingness. The silence became their judge, their shadow, their unseen enemy. It held power over them in a way that no human adversary ever could, because silence leaves room for truth. And truth was the last thing they wanted exposed. In the end, they realized the silence wasn't empty. It was listening. Maps were once their greatest weapons. Lines, routes, codes, coordinates. But suddenly, every road felt familiar. Every detour looked identical. Every map pointed to a place that déjà vu had already claimed. They drove for hours only to end up in places they swore they had left behind. It was as if the world itself folded around them, refusing to allow escape. Their GPS systems glitched. Signals overlapped. Paths looped back on themselves like a psychological maze. They tried helicopters, secure convoys, armored transports, but even the sky and the ground betrayed them. Every journey replayed itself like a scene stuck on repeat. Panic grew inside their vehicles. Their elite drivers questioned their instruments. Their navigators doubted their training. Nothing was stable. Nothing was predictable. It felt like someone had rewritten the geography around them just to watch them struggle. This wasn't a trap built with walls. It was built with repetition. And repetition is the deadliest trap because it doesn't just capture your body, it captures your mind. They felt like rats running in circles, watched by an intelligence that understood their fear better than they understood their own escapes. Maps failed them, roads mocked them, and they learned that a leader who cannot move cannot lead. Being watched is uncomfortable, being monitored is unsettling, but being studied by eyes that aren't human, eyes that don't blink, eyes that see deeper than your soul, that is a terror of its own. Officials began to feel those eyes everywhere, in the reflection of car windows, in the glow of security screens, in the glare of overhead lights. They felt as if every breath they took was being recorded, analyzed, measured. The paranoia spread like wildfire, burning away their self-control and melting their arrogance. They searched for cameras, bugs, spies, anything that could explain the sensation, but found nothing. And nothing is always scarier than something, because something can be identified, something can be fought, but nothing can follow you forever. They grew afraid of standing still, afraid of speaking freely, afraid of thinking too loudly. Power became unbearable when paired with invisible eyes that judged every decision they made. They weren't afraid of enemies anymore. They were afraid of being understood. Instinct had been their treasure, their compass, their trusted ally. But suddenly, their instincts turned against them. Every choice felt wrong. Every direction felt cursed. Their intuition, once sharp and precise, felt like a tool in someone else's hand, a tool used to lure them deeper into traps. They second-guessed everything. Meetings they would normally attend, they avoided. Routes they trusted now felt dangerous. People they relied on suddenly felt suspicious. Their instincts, instead of guiding them, became mirrors, reflecting the déjà vu they couldn't escape. This betrayal was psychological warfare at its finest. What better way to break a powerful figure than to make them doubt the only thing they trust more than themselves? Their instincts weren't just failing, they were misfiring, pushing them further into fear. They grew slow, hesitant, fragile. Their decisions became diluted by hesitation. Their strategies collapsed under uncertainty. And the ones who once moved like predators now moved like prey. A leader without instinct is a leader without identity, and that identity was slipping from their fingertips. Time has always been their ally, deadlines, operations, countdowns. But now, time betrayed them too. Hours repeated themselves. Meetings felt duplicated. Days ended exactly the same way they started, as if trapped in a loop designed to test their sanity. Time wasn't passing, it was circling. They checked clocks obsessively, resetting watches, replacing batteries, questioning the rhythms of their own heartbeat. But no matter what they did, the sense of repetition tightened like a noose. The minutes felt orchestrated, engineered, manipulated by an intelligence that understood time better than they ever could. Deadlines became meaningless. Schedules collapsed. The future felt identical to the past, and the present felt like a glitch. They couldn't strategize because strategy requires time. And time no longer obeyed them. When time stops being linear, power stops being relevant. And they realized they weren't living in hours anymore. They were living in warnings. Some rooms simply felt wrong, not because of how they looked, but because of the energy inside them. Officials entered conference rooms, meeting halls, command centers, and felt trapped even though the doors were open. It was as if the walls leaned inward, listening to every word they whispered. Their bodies told them to leave, but their responsibilities forced them to stay. That tension became poison. Their nerves twitched. Their posture shrank. Every conversation felt like a confession. Every strategy felt like a mistake unfolding in slow motion. They started avoiding certain rooms entirely. Some refused to step into briefing chambers. Others demanded meetings outdoors, where at least the sky felt uncontrollable. Yet even with all their running, the claustrophobia followed, like the déjà vu was filling every structure they entered. These weren't physical traps, they were psychological prisons, built not with bricks, but with fear. Trust was the first casualty. Officials who once shared secrets now shared suspicion. Every glance felt accusatory. Every handshake felt rehearsed. Every ally felt like an enemy, waiting for the right moment to break loyalty. The déjà vu didn't just disrupt their missions. It shattered their unity. They argued over everything. Over who leaked information. Over who predicted the wrong moves. Over who wasn't panicking enough, or who was panicking too much. Rumors twisted through their ranks like serpents, squeezing logic out of their conversations. Meetings turned violent with words. Friendships dissolved overnight. Loyalty vanished. They weren't a team anymore. They were individual islands, drowning under the same storm. And isolation is the deadliest weakness of all. The déjà vu wasn't just breaking their minds. It was breaking their relationships. Shadows were once simple, harmless, just shapes created by light. But now, shadows felt alive. They stretched differently. They moved strangely. They appeared in places they shouldn't be. Officials began watching the ground more than the skies, fearful that their own shadows were revealing secrets they didn't speak out loud. These shadows followed them into hallways, parking lots, offices, secure rooms. Sometimes they swore the shadows duplicated themselves, as if reflecting versions of themselves that they didn't recognize. Shadows became warnings, reminders that they were being observed from angles humans couldn't occupy. The fear grew so intense that they demanded brighter lights, wider rooms, open spaces. But the brighter the light, the darker the shadow. They realized something chilling. The threat didn't need to stand in front of them. It only needed to stand behind. Security systems malfunctioned in synchronized patterns. Devices replayed conversations that never happened. Cameras recorded movements that weren't theirs. It felt as if their technology, the machinery they trusted with their lives, had developed a mind of its own. Screens glitched with déjà vu images. Printers spat out maps they never uploaded. Phones rang with silence on the other end. It wasn't random. It was deliberate. Someone was bending technology to send a message. I'm inside your world. They unplugged systems, reset devices, changed frequencies, but nothing stopped the interference. Even analog tools, old radios, handwritten notes, felt compromised. Their own machinery was betraying them, exposing their vulnerabilities, mirroring their fears. No war is as terrifying as one fought against your own tools. Because how do you win when the battlefield is inside your equipment? There was a truth lurking beneath their panic, a truth none of them dared to say out loud. They were losing not because their enemy was stronger, but because their enemy was smarter. They sensed it. They felt it. They lived it in every repeated moment, every predicted move, every